She's so fine. Hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? This is a bizarre story coming out of Albany, New York. It says a New York landlord is out on bail after being arrested and accused of kidnapping tenants from his property and dumping them in a cemetery 30 miles away. And that cemetery is actually in another county. The two tenants accused landlord Sean Douglas of kidnapping them while armed from their home at his property in the South End neighborhood of Albany. In the police report, the two accusers say they were abducted, restrained with zip ties, and covered with pillowcases. They then claimed Douglas dumped them off in a rural cemetery in the town of Ghent. One person was able to free themselves from the restraints to seek help at a nearby house. I believe it was a male and a female that was actually kidnapped, and the female is the one that freed herself. Quote, "He's lucky they came out of that alive. They could have froze to death out there," said Albany County Sheriff Craig Apple. Douglas was reportedly frustrated he couldn't evict the victims from his property because of a statewide ban on evictions caused by the pandemic. Apple said despite frustrations from landlords, there's a legal system in place. Quote, "My advice to both parties is to be patient. You have to be tolerant. This is a process. I didn't invent it, so don't call down to the sheriff's office screaming and yelling like everybody else has for the past 12 months. The ban on evictions in New York expires May the 1st. As landlords wait for their day in court, eviction requests continue to grow. Meanwhile, the sheriff's hands remain tied. Quote, "We know right now we have upwards of 100 eviction requests, and we know there's hundreds basically in the filing ready to go at city court, town court," end quote, Apple said. The Albany Police Department has not released further details about this case, but more people could be charged in connection with the alleged kidnapping. It's said that he had an accomplice or accomplices in this kidnapping. I literally cannot imagine being asleep inside of a rental property and waking up to someone, my landlord, zip tying my hands and feet and shoving a pillowcase over my head, putting me in a vehicle forcefully, and dumping me off in a snow-covered, extremely cold cemetery out in the middle of nowhere. I can't even wrap my brain around it. It's so bizarre. I'm going to play the video that goes along with this story.
All right, Steve, thanks very much. The Times-Union reporting a bizarre story tonight that an Albany landlord, apparently frustrated over the state's eviction ban, is now facing kidnapping charges after literally driving his tenants out of his building. The paper says that 48-year-old Sean Douglas abducted two of his tenants while they were sleeping, using zip ties and tape to tie them up and covering their heads in pillowcases before driving them to Ghent in Columbia County, where they say he dumped them in a snowy cemetery. The TU reports Douglas toted a gun and had help from a pair of accomplices. The alleged victims, a man and a woman, got away when the woman undid her bindings and went for help at a nearby home.
Landlord facing charges accused of kidnapping tenants that he couldn't evict due to the pandemic. Sean Douglas out on bail tonight. His tenants tell police that they were abducted early Sunday morning at gunpoint, restrained with zip ties, and covered with pillowcases. They say Douglas then dumped them at a cemetery 30 miles away in Ghent.
He's lucky they came out of that alive. I mean, he could have froze to death out there, whatever the case may be. You have to be tolerant. There is a process. I didn't invent it, so don't call down here to the sheriff's office screaming and yelling like everybody has been for the last 12 months.
That ban on evictions remains in place until May 1st.
Now, I do want to mention that this story came out 3 days ago, so this is very recent. I'm going to continue to monitor this story to see what ends up coming out. They're being kind of tight-lipped about it. And I will let you guys know as the story unfolds. Thanks for watching.